Welcome, folks, to another episode of the Cover One Film Room, part, of course, of the Cover One Sports Network. I am one of your two hosts this evening, Anthony Prohaska, joined tonight by my co-host, Kendall Mirsky. Kendall, Eric chose life tonight, so it's just you and me on our own. Actually, I can't even make that joke with you because you've stabbed Eric and I in the back far more than Eric has stabbed you and I in the back. But nonetheless, here we are. Good energy, good vibes. The Bills come out of a Week 4 battle in Baltimore. We love alliteration. Pretty happy with that title. In a rainy, messy, wet, physical, anxiety-creating game in Baltimore that did not look good for the Buffalo Bills for a majority of the game, or at least in the first half and even into bits of the third quarter. But nonetheless, the Bills come out of this game 3-1, and we're going to dive into some of that film tonight in this episode of the Film Room. Kendall, when we started watching the game tape and figuring things out, okay, what do we want to do for the film room this week? Because we had an idea of what we wanted to do. Nice play. Well done, Craig. We had an idea of what we wanted to do going into this week's episode of the film room. But then the way nothing ever works how it's planned in football. And so with what we had for our theme of what we were going to do, the game didn't play out in that way. So we scrapped that idea, balled up the paper, chucked it, came up with a new plan. And that new plan came from watching the film. And Kendall, the Bills' defensive performance in this game, when you've got a guy like Lamar Jackson, who is arguably the most dangerous man in the entire world with the football in his hands, electric, dynamic, legitimate dual threat, progressing as a passer, still tremendously dynamic as a runner, despite the fact that he weighs 230 pounds now and has gotten a little thicker, you're already at somewhat of a disadvantage, let alone with also the unique unicorn type of offense that the Baltimore Ravens are in today's NFL and the quality players they have on offense, despite the fact that they had some injuries going into the game and incurred some injuries as the game went on. But nonetheless, a quality performance for the Buffalo Bills defense. What made you, as you sat and watched the film, kind of make you gravitate towards that side of the ball? Because, we both have our reasons of why we wanted to focus on the defense coming into this game. But for you, before we dive into the film, what kind of clicked in your brain of like, I want to focus on the defense because of this and this?
I mean, honestly, it wasn't even so much all 22. It did get solidified when I got into the coach's film, but even watching the game on broadcast and kind of thinking back and reflecting on the game, a lot of what happened to the Bills in the first quarter and a half, I guess we'll call it, of football, was a lot of self-inflicted wounds from the offense. And the defense was just trying to hold it down as best they could, and they were being put in really, really tough situations.
Yeah, frustrating. So
yeah, exactly. So it makes it really tough for the defense, but I thought the defense played, pretty well. You give up the ball already in the red zone, like right off the bat, and there's not much you can do in that regard. And then you kind of have to make your adjustments after the second drive of the Ravens game, because we give them the ball in the red zone, their first opening drive where it's like, okay, this is all scripted, where you're going to be making your adjustments against that. That was the second time the Ravens had the ball.
So, yeah, that was out the window. The Ravens were like, well, this isn't part of our script to get the ball in like the 4. What do we do?
Exactly. So it changes things in that way. And you did kind of see the Bills defense starting to put up that wall and bend without breaking sometime late in the second quarter. And from there, it kept going. So it was really tough for me not to linchpin this, like the catalyst effort that was the victory and the comeback on the defense versus the offense. And obviously the offense came through, they capitalized when it counted, but I think they were in the position to capitalize because of what the defense did throughout the majority of the game.
I think that's very well said. Mainly because it goes along with the point that I have as well. But I tweeted right before, because the Ravens go up 20-3, Bills get the ball, Bills punt, Ravens get the ball, Bills get the stop, Bills get the ball, score a touchdown before the end of the first half. But right before the Bills got that second last possession of the second half, right when it's 20-3, I tweeted out like, go down, score a touchdown before half, come out of the half, get us. Oh, you did?
Keep going. I'll jump in when I quote tweeted it.
Like, go down, score a touchdown now. It's 20-10. Get a stop coming out of the half, and you get the ball back, and it's a brand new game. And there were so many people that kept saying, like, only down 17, like this game feels lost, yada, yada. And I got that, and I understood it. But the other part of me, and I am not an optimist. If anything, I'm overly objective, overly, realistic. I'm a glass half empty kind of guy.
Yeah.
But I was sitting there thinking, like, yeah, to your point, only 20-3. Yeah, only 20-3. This game could have been out of control. You're turning the ball over. You're generating nothing on offense. The Ravens' run game was working. The pass game was working. Even when you had the right coverage, Lamar was slipping out the back door or front door, making plays with his legs. There's Von Miller breaks in and hits Lamar, and Shaq hits him, and Settle hits him, and he gets out of it and just throws it up the sideline. And Milano thinks he has a pick, and he and Andrews kind of collide. The ball goes up in the air, and Duvernay catches it and taps his feet down. Like the majority of the first half just seemed like
Murphy's Law.
Yes, could go wrong, was going wrong. The Ravens were living in this good light. Dane Jackson blitzes off the edge, gets held like crazy, doesn't get called, first down for the Ravens. All of these things just kept happening. And you're sitting there only down 17 because you were able to hold on some drives and force some field goals despite giving up chunk plays or being at a disadvantage in a variety of situations. And you're sitting there. I was thinking the same thing. Like, the defense kept them in this game. And you're not sitting there thinking that for most people, because you're like, kept them in the game. We gave up 20 points in the first half. We're down to 3. My thought was just it could be much, much, much worse. And I got the elements and the team and the game script and all that, but I was like, realistically, you get a couple bounces that go your way and this team could be kept in the game. I thought
that's what happened in the second half.
That's exactly what happened. You get some calls that go your way. You get a tip ball in the air and an interception. Lamar misses some reads and gets some happy feet in the pocket, and things start to change. I thought the defense, they got put in a lot of unfavorable positions in the first half. And as they were getting their footing with that, they were still kind of playing their game and setting the table for what they would do later. I know we're not coming away seeing a ton of takeaways or a ton of sacks, and they gave up 20 points, which in today's NFL is good to only give up 20 points. But I thought this was a really good defensive performance considering how it started, the negative position the defense was put in, and then again, the type of offense and caliber of quarterback and player that you're dealing with in Lamar Jackson in this Ravens offense.
Yeah, 100%. Exactly like you said. It was a great effort to stay in it mentally because, first off, a lot happened and a lot shifted, and we'll kind of talk about it when we get in the film. When the Ravens kicked that final field goal, and obviously this is a lot of hindsight, but that final field goal, their second to last drive in the first half, they didn't score after that point, and the Bills scored the drive right after, and those events in terms of the chronology of the game and the way that the momentum shifted with that. And like you said with your tweet, like I quote tweeted it right after the Bills got the stop coming out of halftime and said with the GIF, "Oh my God, it's happening," from The Office.
Oh, I missed it. I'm so sorry. I had no idea that you quote tweeted it. That's super funny.
It's just topical, but it happened. And that's the point. It's just get yourself in the position to make something happen and see if you can. Because if you try to think 6 steps ahead, you're going to overwhelm yourself and you're going to give yourself too many tasks and you may not even get it done. You got to chip away at it, give yourself one task at a time. And as you put it in that tweet, get that drive going in the end of the first half, score the touchdown, stop them coming out of halftime, roll with what you got. And that's exactly what they did, kept their heads screwed on straight. And everyone did their job for the rest of the game. Obviously, like we just talked about, tale of 2 halves. First half, a lot of things just not going their way. But if you stay in it mentally, the tides have to turn at some point. I do have to say, the way everything was going in terms of the team you're going up against, the weather, the game script, a lot was working against them. So it was very encouraging to see them persevere and just keep working through the game as best they could. And it eventually fell in their laps.
It did. They made a lot of quality plays from an individual perspective, from a team defense perspective. They also, again, got some breaks that went their way. That even early, the offensive pass interference call on Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman cooking Taron Johnson in the slop and then dropping that pass. But again, you do enough to keep yourself in that position that it's a lot different. Granted, I'm not one of those, like, if this happens, then that doesn't happen, because there's so many variables and things that can happen there.
The domino effect will never stop.
Correct. But if the game is 28 or 31-3 when Rashad Bateman drops that pass, it's kind of less significant.
Yeah.
Because the game is not close. You did enough to put yourself into that position where those bounces and those calls made a difference. And then you just let somebody get back into the fight and you see what they can do. And the offense eventually put some points on the board. we're not getting into the offense too much in this episode, although anyone questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, you put up into the chat, even if it's on the offense, we will address them because we are men of the people here on the Cover One Film Room. But I still have some concerns. DF forever comes in and says, sorry I'm late, guys. Thanks for the show as always. How dare you? How dare you?
No,
show
up on time.
Disrespectful. No, we appreciate you. Thank you for stopping by. Yeah, I still have some concerns and reservations about this offense. Another game where things just looked tight. Things were squeezed. Things were condensed, not necessarily formationally, but I mean from like how they were operating. It just seemed again like they had to squeeze blood from a stone. But nice response, DF. Well played. But they end up getting the job done. And I think a lot of that was because they were still able to. They were kept within striking distance by this Buffalo Bills defense. And I think that was the impetus watching the game and then going back and taking a look at the film. That was the impetus for tonight's episode. So what we want to do is take a look at a multitude of film here on the Cover One Film Room, highlighting and showcasing whether it's coverage pieces, whether it's the defensive front and the execution, highlighting the scheme and the structure and the X's and O's and the hows and whys, kind of really putting it all together, showing what the Buffalo Bills did. Because again, they were shell-shocked a little early with how that game started, but you could tell the plan that they had combined with the adjustments that they made. We saw some switches in coverage. We saw some switches in attack. We saw a lot from them of constantly making Lamar Jackson have to adjust because they were changing the pre to post snap picture on almost everything. Sometimes it was just, we're showing a split high safety look and then we're going to make it single high. We're showing single high and then we're going to drop the split. Or, we're showing 6 at the line and we're only going to bring 4 and drop 2. We're showing 6 at the line and we're actually bringing 6. We're showing 4 at the line, but we're bringing 5. Like everything towards the end of the second quarter through the second half just seemed like a different type of attack. And whether that was an in-game adjustment or part of the plan they had all along, it really worked out well. And I think that's part of what we want to showcase tonight as well, that kind of progression and in-game adjustment / evolution in terms of what the Bills were doing to heat up Lamar, mentally tax him, and physically tax him, a little bit of what the Miami Dolphins did to the Buffalo Bills in week 3, but just really throwing anything and everything at him to try and make life as hard as possible. Because in the first half, they did a little, but you saw Lamar just make Lamar Jackson plays. The Bills had good coverage or good pressure, and Lamar just did plays that made you go, well, okay, like that's Lamar, like tip your hat, like great play, dude. Like you can't really do much about that, but it's hard to make those sustainable plays over and over. And come second half, whether it was the adjustments or just Lamar regressing to the mean, we saw that switch. And I think that was a huge piece as well that we wanted to highlight tonight.
Yeah, 100%. There were definitely some drawbacks to Lamar's game as we got into the second half, and losing Bateman definitely didn't help. And the Bills clearly game planning to do their best to mitigate Mark Andrews, which really did work outside of some like
you got to. I love Bateman, but Andrews is the option.
Yeah, he's the option you got to take away. 100%.
I felt bad for Bateman. He left in a boot. Like that sucks.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
Especially after putting things together this year after being hurt last year. He's so good. Like I already think he's like a high-end wide receiver 2, but turning into a wide receiver 1. Yeah. And you pair him with Mark Andrews in that offense. So fun, so exciting. I really felt for him. I hope he's all right.
Yeah, no, I agree. Definitely agree on that. But I got to commend Frazier for those adjustments that you were mentioning. I think at a certain point, like I mentioned, you're kind of behind the 8 ball when you get their scripted game plan for the second drive of the game and you have to make your adjustments late. But I thought when he made those adjustments and started to kind of get more creative on what he was doing to both affect the run game and affect Lamar in the pocket, I thought that was really smart with when he was doing it, when he was deciding to do it, sneakily doing it a lot on second downs, which I didn't notice a lot on the broadcast, but I did notice it in coach's film.
More
I thought
slants,
a lot of that
more
stuff,
post-snap alignments, more trying to time up like your run blitzes and change it at the last minute and bring, like just a whole bunch of peppering and throwing different things to make Lamar not be comfortable.
Whatever it was, a lot of times I noticed it was on second down, whether it was like disguising coverage, like you mentioned, with one high look and then getting to cover 2, something like that, or staying in cover 2 and then rotating down into cover 3 or something like that.
Which sounds simple.
It sounds simple, but it makes life hard on Lamar because your pre and post snap picture is just, it's different. And then if you match that, and this didn't happen a ton, it was kind of what I noticed was more either or. It was either they're disguising coverage or they're doing stunts or doing who's coming, who's going type of stuff up front. But there was a couple of times where if you do both of those things and get creative on the front end and the back end, I mean, that's a nightmare for a quarterback because your pre-snap picture is just vastly different.
Yeah, you're creating a nightmare for the quarterback and then also maybe for the offensive line.
Right.
And then it's just chaos as a whole. And I think that was a huge piece too. Like there were times where Lamar would find he had players open, but the pass rush would get there and the pressure would get there and cause problems. And you're just trying to create that extra tenth or a quarter or a half a second of the quarterback holding the ball. And it could be as simple as he's pre-snap reading. He's like, okay, cool. This is too high. I'm going there. And then he drops back and the safety comes down and he's like, wait a minute.
Yep.
This is single high. I thought it was going to be two. Bang. Sack.
And that half a second matters. That half a second extra in the pocket that you have to rethink and reevaluate what you're seeing in terms of coverage. That could be the difference in Von Miller getting home.
And look from the perspective of a quarterback that gets the ball out in 2.5 seconds. That's like, oh, okay, that's pretty good. A quarterback that time to throw is 3 seconds, just a half second more. Everybody's like, good Lord, why is he holding on to the ball?
And that's the crazy thing, right? Because the league leader is probably somewhere in between 2.3 and 2.5 usually. And then
was leading it the last several years at 2.25. And we even look at
3 seconds is so much further down the list. And that's the point. Like, I know it sounds like half a second is nothing, but if you look at it in terms of their peers, it really is an eternity in the pocket.
Well, even just look at 40 times. Would you rather have a corner who runs a 4.5 or a 5.0? It's just a point. It's a half second difference, but there's a big difference between a 4.5 and a 5.0. Like that 5.0 is probably not getting drafted. Trying to do anything you can, whether it's mentally, physically, just make that quarterback have to hold on a little bit more, matching and pairing that coverage with the front. We're very excited to dive into the film here on this episode, and we are going to dive into the film. But as Kendall brings that film up, some of you folks may know, we've mentioned it the last several weeks, or if you're watching here live or watching later, you'll see that logo underneath Kendall's beautiful face over there saying sponsored by. Oh, you nailed it. I never get it right on this guy's
It's because I know my mic is right over it. So
One Pie's always like over me here, that logo, and I never get it. Well done. Super jealous. Well played. We're sponsored here by Nickel City Cigars here on the Cover One Film Room. Located in downtown Buffalo at 284 Franklin Street, we have continued to talk about how this brand and this company pairs with what we are at Cover One. We recognize the niche that we fill and the specific kind of consumer base that engages with us and that gravitates towards us. And that is what Nickel City Cigars is. They are a new school boutique cigar experience for everyone. With allocated, rare artisanal cigar needs. It's a unique experience. They've got a modern lounge. They've got vintage arcade games. They've got several TVs so you can watch sports there. They've got bourbon. They've got cigars. They've got local craft beers. They have a full members bar. I like that you can order online and pick up in store or have your order shipped to your door. I don't think that's done enough places, just like the convenience and the ease of it all. If you go in store or if you're online, use discount code COVER1, that's cover and the number one, all one word, for 20% off of their entire catalog, or your entire order, I should say, at nickelcitycigars.com, or mention Cover1 in store and receive 20% off your purchase as well. They also have a ton of affordable membership options. We have the online link in the episode show notes here. We've got a ton of people, not just saying it, who in the chat the last couple of weeks have talked about how awesome Nickel City Cigars is. Like, I'm not a cigar guy, but they seem awesome. And then as a company, and then all the people in the chat the last couple of weeks have really talked it up and mentioned how much they love going there and how great their membership is. We're tremendously thankful to have them sponsoring the show and their unique approach to their business, how that meshes with our unique approach here at the brand and on this show. So big shout out to Nickel City Cigars. Check the episode show notes for their website, or again, go there in person, downtown Buffalo, 284 Franklin Street, Nickel City Cigars. Proud to have their sponsorship. And Kendall, proud to have you riding with me tonight so you can pull up the film and we can do some film in the film room. Yay!
Let's get it. All right. So the first few plays that we're going to show here, and I know a lot of people are probably like, oh, I don't care about run stops and stuff.
Everyone should care about run stops.
Run fills.
Run fits are sexy. They're sexy. They take a certain mentality and team defense. They're like a good run fit from a team defense is art because it requires communication, it requires synchronization, and it requires requires a certain mentality to be able to execute it. It's beautiful. Oh, I tweeted this clip out today.
It's fantastic.
Also,
when
as
you
we
see it
dive
from
into
three
it,
players at once, that's
yes,
when you know it's a good play.
and also, just as an not as an afterthought, but a quick mention, AJ Epinessa's run defense has been really good this year. He
Oh, it's
showed it in the
stepped up for sure
preseason,
this
but
year.
yes, it's continued into the regular season. I don't know if it's because he's got that arm shiver sleeve in this game, and it just kind of like stepped him up to another level. He crushed it. Prince Amelia had a great game, as did Brandon Bryant, these depth guys. I love that we're starting out with this clip because it highlights how well these rotational guys played, which was even more important given the matchup against the Ravens.
Yeah, and a big talking point with this too is the fact that the Bills were so successful on first down stopping the run. I think like 4 of these first 5 run stop plays are going to be first down run stops. Not all of them resulted in, first, second, third down and off the field type of thing. But
no, but they would be like 2nd and 7, 2nd and 8.
Exactly. The idea of winning on first down as a defense, making sure that you're keeping that offense behind schedule is a big W, especially against an offense like this who wants to be running the football. If you get them into longer third downs, you play into both your defense's favor and their offense's weakness. So first highlight, we talked about AJ Epinesa. I want to talk about how good he looks on this play against a massive Daniel Falele.
Yeah.
And he just uses strength to just hold him at bay. And yeah, it's an excellent play there. Sheds off of him at the time of attack and obviously makes the play. But you rewind it and look at the initial push that you're getting from those 2 defensive tackles, these depth defensive tackles. We have seen the depth tested on the interior of the defensive line the past 2 weeks. And Brandon Bryant has been showing up, and obviously Prince Amelia had quite the game this week. But these 2 guys just getting the better of those Ravens offensive linemen. You see Amelia getting right up into Linderbaum right after the snap, and then Bryant just kind of shedding the guy, trying to get to the next level, kind of avoiding that trap block too from Ricard. It was really well done from him to force everything towards Epinesa, but just great team effort from those 3 to funnel it all together.
Brian had several reps like this in this game where he just went with that quick arm over. He had it later in the game on the goal line stand on the Ravens' last drive. We will get there. I like to set the tone and tempo so people can like have these things in their brain and then call back to them later. I'm a long-term booking kind of guy. It's my wrestling nature. That quick arm over, he showed it multiple times, which shows that that's something that he's incorporated into his game. It's not a fluke. It's what he's doing. There's so much I like. Amelia is arguably my favorite piece on the freeze it right there. Well, I'll go back a little. There, right there, as he sticks that right foot into the ground. Go forward a little bit. Boom. Look at the leverage and the positioning as he's anchoring down. Like that bend and that explosion. He explodes off the ball, makes good contact with Linderbaum. Linderbaum is already a smaller sized center in terms of height and weight. So the fact that Amelia is getting lower than him really speaks to the pad level he plays. Low man wins. He gets low, wins leverage initially, but then he starts to lose it, right? And Linderbaum starts to get under him right here.
Right there.
But that's where he latches on, uses his feet, turns, and just gets violent and starts controlling Linderbaum. He's got his head in his gap, but he's got his eyes on the running back. Right? So he's got his head to Linderbaum's left shoulder and he's eyeing J.K. Dobbins the whole way. He's in position. If he has to shed and try and make a play to the left, he can potentially. If Dobbins gets forced to the right, like he does here because of Bryant's penetration, Amelia's already in position. And then you've got AJ Epinesa executing that push-pull on Daniel Falele. And this run was stopped just because of the run fit from those 3 guys.
Yeah, it didn't even get to the second level.
No. And so much of, we talked about it all off season, and it's super funny to see these prophecies come to fruition. Like we talked about, improved defensive line play improves the play for your linebackers. And I think it's no coincidence that you're seeing more splash plays from Milano and Edmonds coming forward and shooting gaps and slicing into the backfield to make tackles for loss. And you're also seeing good defensive line play Yeah, that's a huge point though from Pops.
I
Like
like this, Pops.
Brian and Amelie are only in there because Jordan Phillips is banged up and Ed Oliver is banged up.
Yep.
Like they're only in there because it was an emergency type of situation. And look at even if this was their best rep all day, they made a significant.
It's a dang good rep,
right? Like that's what I'm saying. Like Epinesa is your third defensive end. I have him ahead of Carlos Basham, me individually, but still, he's your third guy. He's your rotational guy. Amelie and Brandon Bryant are your rotational guys in this game. On a regular week, they're on the practice squad. They're depth and then more depth. The fact that they're able to give you these quality reps against a good offensive line and a physical offensive line that works on run blocking a lot. This isn't a team that like, well, we're the Ravens and our hand got forced because of the weather. No, this is what they want to do. This is who they want to be. And Amelie just the power, the extension, the leverage, the pop in the hands, the weight transference from his toes all the way through his upper body. Like that's how you teach it. And then what Epinesa does on the outside, again, it's a good highlight of what I said. Run defense. Daquan Jones said this during the offseason. Daquan Jones, he said that, fitting the run is a mentality. Like you have to want to fit the run. And it's a huge mental piece. But also, it's a team defense piece. Like you need everyone to fit the run. That's what's been so frustrating with Tremaine Edmonds for all these years because people will be like, well, how come he didn't make that play? And you have to understand how the run fits are, whether it's gap exchanges or who's just needing to go where. It's a synchronized dance in fitting the run. And the Buffalo Bills did it well on a lot of reps against Baltimore, which was very key to this win because Baltimore runs the ball a lot. They run it effectively. And because they are a gap scheme team primarily, it's easy to get out gapped. They'll switch gaps on you. You'll get blown out of the water. We saw a couple runs like that for Baltimore in this game. Yeah. And before you know it, it's a quick 15 yards or a quick 20 yards downfield. And you got to make a play and make a tackle to stop an even bigger gain. But there were a lot of reps where these guys were winning at the defensive line with physicality, mentality, integrity, playing team defense. And again, seeing it from your rotational guys, it's even more encouraging.
Exactly. All right, now we're getting on to the second level for this one, but this starts with Mr. Tim Settle. Mr. Tim Settle is going to take on a double team here, but not only take on the double team, he's going to do a pretty good job of holding Linderbaum here to make sure that Linderbaum doesn't get to the second level and allows Milano to fill in that run gap and then also penetrate through the run gap to make the tackle on J.K. Dobbins. And yeah, like I said, I know like a lot of people don't find this stuff sexy, but this is really sound football. And this is stuff you have to be able to do to be successful, especially in the playoffs, because there are going to be teams that try to test you. And you think about the Bills in the past and the way teams tried to test the Bills was in run defense, try to run it up the gut against them because they're a team that are to be feared on the secondary.
And and ironically, that same team, how did the Pats almost beat the Packers this weekend? They literally just ran it down their throat. Zappy made some plays, but Damian Harrison, Ramondre Stevenson,
the reason for the most part.
Yep, just running it down your throat. And this really good secondary, granted Adrian Amos went down, but all of a sudden you're outmatched because you can't stop the run.
Yeah, so honestly, great play here from Milano because, I mean, most of this defensive line gets washed down and the bounce back or the cut back to the outside there is very available. Elam is blocked up on the left side of your screen. So there is a hole available for him. It's really, I mean, you see Teron Johnson kind of get held a little bit there.
Big time. He gets held big time.
Yeah, it's really just Johnson and Elam and Poyer coming in to fill, but there is a chance for Dobbins to break this even further outside of Elam. And I mean, luckily Milano can get through there quick enough and get that shoestring tackle, but that is started because of what Tim Settle does right at the point of attack with that double team, taking it head on, being physical at the point of attack, and making sure that that guy can't climb to the second level quick enough.
That's exactly it. Like, so Linderbaum at center, the man snapping the ball for the viewers at home, just in case you don't know what a center is, he wants to climb to the second level and get a piece of Matt Milano to reroute him enough to the point that exactly you highlighted. So Linderbaum's going to get on that double team and he's the one who's going to climb to the second level and get a piece, or in theory, get a piece of Matt Milano. So that way Milano literally can't do this, because if he can't do this, Dobbins has a chance to make this play.
The idea is that Milano isn't even going to make it past this point.
Correct. So this run can either hit up the gut if the gap is there, or if everybody gets washed down, the running back has an opportunity to bounce it and make a play. And this is a good cut with potential for some yardage. But Settle, his physicality and violence at the point of attack, that's something that we're seeing also consistently from this defensive line. And I don't know if it's because Eric Washington is still the defensive line coach. So I think a lot of it has to do with the players, and it's either their mentality or their skill set. But you just see violence at the point of attack, like Daquan Jones, Settle, Oliver when he's in there, Jordan Phillips when he's in there, Bryant, Amelia, it doesn't matter. Like on the interior, they play mean, they play violent, they're strong at the point of attack. Like the fact that Settle is able to get double teamed here, but then turn and torque his body to kind of like shed and disrupt Linderbaum, but not get completely pushed out by the guard. Like, look at him anchored down. Yeah. He's not moving from the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, he's still taking up a hole.
Correct. So he's clogging up the middle. And if you want, go forward a little bit and pause it right there. So Edmonds comes and he meets Ricard. Daquan Jones fiddles inside. You've highlighted him right there. Boom. Shaq Lawson has spiked inside as well. So the Bills are crashing down on this inside run. And what I like, it's unfortunate because Taron Johnson gets held. As you go in slow-mo, Taron recognizes this.
Yeah,
so he
all over that.
Exactly. So he's going to go outside. And then you've also got Poyer coming down and fitting the alley. You've got that recognition from the second and third level of the defense. And again, Taron with this gap exchange with Shaq Lawson, he recognizes it. He gets held. I still think this should have been called. But this is another piece of that team defense. Like everybody is recognizing what everyone is doing. Like, okay, I'm supposed to take A and you take B. You ended up coming in and taking A. Cool. So I'll just take B. And then you've got the individual play and execution and physicality and mentality on top of it. I got to stop because DF says, oh my God, 166 watching and only 30 likes. Smack that like button. I don't know if people know, but likes here on YouTube,
they kind of help.
They do. They help. They go a long way towards helping us to track and trend in front of more eyes and ears. They're kind of like the lifeblood here on YouTube. So if you're watching live or watching later, please take a moment if you're enjoying this content to drop a like on this video. Please, 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 and thank you. Appreciate you for the shout out there, DF, and the recognition for that. Yeah, this is good team defense. You get the individual pieces from Settle. I also like what Daquan Jones does. Obviously, Milano shoots the gap and makes the play. That athleticism, that burst was there time and time again. Yeah, but this is a functionality. Yeah, huge game from him. But again, this is a functionality of team defense. And one more piece, I want to shout out AJ Epinesa again for setting the edge there on the right side and getting inside his man and then just using that long arm to just kind of sit as like the gatekeeper. Yep. Like watch him as it goes forward. He just jacks up.
He's got this inside shoulder, and if it does bounce outside, he's got eyes inside. So
look at the leverage. Look how much lower he is, which is easy because
he's like 6'9" or something.
Yeah, he literally is. I think he's like 6'9". Look at Epinesa. Just jack him up, use those hands, and then boom, that's the positioning right there. He's set up. He can do whatever he wants. And also one more shout out because I've already mentioned him here. Taron Johnson is the strong side linebacker right now because of the motion. Like, we don't talk about that enough, that this 5'10", 190-pound nickel corner is the strong side linebacker. He's playing in the box. Like, he only doesn't get in there and make a tackle here or make a hit on the falling Dobbins because he gets held.
Because he gets held,
That's just ridiculous. Like,
yeah, and the Bills, and that's the thing. Like you'd think going into Ravens week, okay, the Bills are going to live a little bit more in 4-3.
That was the question: is this a Terrell Bernard week? Is this a Tyrell Dodson kind of week?
Exactly.
You want to know the percentage of snaps that Taron Johnson played in this game?
Probably like 95. If I had to
99.
Guess. I think I saw. Yeah, or Dodson was in for the goal line.
That goal line
second and one
of them.
Yep.
99% of snaps versus a gap scheme heavy run offense with a unicorn at quarterback. And it just, you're leaving your 5'10", 190-pound nickel defender in there who's bigger for a nickel guy, but he's small compared to a linebacker, but you got him lined up in the box again on this play, and you're able to do that because he fits the run with violence and tenacity, and it's impressive.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I mean, he's not going to do a whole lot on this play. We'll get another one where we're going to see him in the backfield and we're going to see him making plays in the run game. But on this play, we're going back to Prince Emili and Garut. Another example of setting the edge, but also just two guys working in tandem right next to each other and not even allowing this play to get to the second level. And that
They
was
wrecked
really
this whole
what,
thing.
yeah, they wrecked the entire play. And that's the thing with these first down run stops that we kept seeing in this game. A lot of these run stops weren't even getting to the second level. Like the front four was doing so much in terms of their run fills and being dominant at the point of attack to the point where they can just stack and shed a block. And you see it here from Prince, where you see him stacking that block and you see him all over, eyes in the backfield. You can see him very right. Like you see him looking to the wrong side, but he knows at a certain point, I mean, if I don't see him, that means
Yeah,
he's
he's
on the
gotta be
other
on the other
side.
side.
Like he's got to be over here, and he
But he has,
bounces over there.
and then Dobbins has to cut
Yep.
inside there because Groot
Yep.
has set the edge along
Yep.
with Taron Johnson a bit. So there's nowhere to go if he bounces it outside. He's got to cut back inside.
Exactly. So it's just a great tandem effort here from defensive tackle and defensive end to keep this run inside the tackles. But even like you said, like Tehran's here. Like Tehran is ready for this to be bounced outside. And even at the second level, you see Tremaine filling inside if it goes in between that gap and it gets beyond Ricard. But that's the thing, that's the point about these run fills. It didn't get to that point because the Bills were so dominant at the front four for this play. But you can see how sound it is at the first and second level if it were to get to that second level. So great job from Groot and Prince on this play to keep it all contained in probably like a 2-3 yard gain.
I want go in slow-mo here.
Okay.
Go to the snap and then go in slow-mo. Pause it real quick though. Look at where pause it. look at where, okay, so the left tackle and the left guard. Look at where they're lined up right now. Roughly like the 47.5 yard line, right? Like where their feet are, right? Go in slow-mo. Watch where they get knocked back by Emili and Gregory Rousseau. Yeah, watch this line of scrimmage get reestablished on the left. Boom. Guard's foot is already back to the 46.
46, yep.
And Groot's going to drive his man back as well.
Working.
Yep. Faalele gets no push at all. Look at if you go in reverse a little bit, rewind a little bit. Look at where that left guard is. He's almost back to the 45 as you move forward here. He almost got knocked back 1.5 yards
and forces that slight jump cut from Dobbins.
Exactly. You can't get any momentum going. You can't get downhill when there's a guard in your lap as soon as you get the ball. And then, okay, I'm forced. Let me try and bounce to the outside. My left tackle literally has gotten no push whatsoever. And if anything, has gotten driven back about 0.5 yard. So now where do I go? There is nothing to go outside because I see number 7 flashing. Let me bounce it inside where I get stopped by Prince Emili. Just good run fits and tenacity, which is super important going forward because eventually when you play teams like, the Kansas City Chiefs, who have the ability to spread you out and then still run the ball, you are going to need your front four to control the line of scrimmage. You are going to need them to fit the run and play like this because you're going to be playing with lighter boxes. The Bills had somewhat of an advantage in this game for these sets. Like, even though Taron Johnson's in the box here, you're still playing with a 7-man box. At times, they were playing with 8-man boxes, sometimes even 9, like they did at times against Tennessee. So you do have somewhat of a numbers advantage to a degree. But
I mean, you see like Dane's even condensed into the box. You can see DeMar's trying to come downhill a little bit too.
They're there. But this rep isn't won because of the numbers advantage. This isn't because, we had 10 guys and they had 2, so we beat them. This is won because of the execution up front. And it's Emili and Rousseau. And again, if you get that level of win up front, it derails everything for an offense. And then you get the finish. Not only do you get the disruption from Emili, you get the finish as well. And again, Groot doing the same thing. Like, he's extending on Faalele. He's stacking him and just literally staring at J.K. Dobbins.
Yep.
He's just staring at him like, are you going outside? You going outside? I see. Are you trying to cut? Oh, you're going inside? Okay,
and then you just push your guy. Yep.
That's it. And shout out to Edmonds a little bit too. Andrews tries to cut him. Doesn't happen. Ricard comes through. He gets pushed aside, and Evans is staying there as well. Like, you get guys who are just taking on blocks in a better way, stacking people, fitting the run
with better angles too. Like specifically in terms of how they're taking on the blocks. I felt like a lot of times last year, you're taking on the block for the sake of taking on the block and being like, okay, my other teammate is going to make a play here. No, you're trying to take on that block in a way that allows your teammate to have a better angle, or even give yourself a better angle if you have a chance to shed off of this block. I felt like there's a lot more foresight in how they're attacking these blockers in the run game.
Yes. And also, Sean Wilkerson beat me to it. He says Dane filling backside when Vaughn is getting washed. Yeah, look at Dane just shuffle right on down the line and watch for that cutback. He's got that responsibility of, if Lamar decides to keep this, he's got to keep an eye on that mesh point, because if Lamar boots, or if this ends up being a counter or reverse or any type of action, Dane has to stop all of those things. He's got that BCR responsibility. And this is one of Dane's strengths, his ability to come forward. And look at how he just shuffles down quickly and decisively. He sees the mesh point. He sees that it's a handoff. It's clearly going to Dobbins. So he just slides right down that line. So if there's a cutback, he can make the tackle, and he fills from the backside. Again, team defense, sprinkled in with some really high individual execution.
Yep. And here we go. This is another example of Taron Johnson getting downhill on this play, really showing that ability to line up in the box and not prove to be a liability.
He beats Ricard, who is a monster.
And you see, once again, obviously this starts with a motion, and now he's your strong side linebacker, which is just a wild thing to think about. And like you said, the Bills do have a lot of people in the box here. They got 8 guys in the box, but you see what the Ravens have numbers wise. Like, this is fine. This makes sense.
Two of their guys in the box. Yes. But so the Ravens are in heavy. They're in 2 tight ends, and they have a fullback. Yep. 2 of the 8 men in the box are Dane Jackson and Taron Johnson for the Bills.
Exactly.
This is still an advantage for the Ravens.
But they still get it done because of the personnel multiplicity that you get from guys like Taron Johnson and Dane Jackson, because they can do stuff in the run game and the pass game. So obviously, great job by really Milano and Taron by just firing your gun on this play, identifying that this play is going wide and everyone needs to make sure that they have their gaps. And you see these gaps start to form. You see right here, you see right here. And you see those two, Milano and Taron, fire their guns, get through those holes, and make sure that Dobbins doesn't have a chance to make a decision on where he wants to cut. He's going to have to make a decision on how he wants to break a tackle, and he can.
That's a really good point. And the Bills also get caught a little bit on this because of the slants inside.
The slant on the rush. Yep.
Like if you notice, so Emili and Shaq, Shaq and Emili, especially on that left side, they both slant inside to a gap. So they're doing that gap exchange. They're slanting, and then the linebackers and Taron Johnson are shifting over a gap. But the defensive line on that side with Shaq and Emili basically take themselves out of the play by slanting inside. So this is further advantage, because you look at Linderbaum, 64, he looks on the snap like he tries to get some action on Emili, and then Emili goes right inside him. So watch Linderbaum, 64. He's just like, should I touch you? Oh, no. Okay, goodbye. And he just moves. But Shaq, look at Shaq, how he still stays strong at the point of attack. So he takes up the left guard and Linderbaum. So now you've got one Milano occupying 2. Exactly. Which means it's one-on-one on Edmonds, one-on-one on Taron Johnson. Milano has the opportunity to be free. He clicks and closes, shoots the gap, makes the play. Big kudos to Milano, but it's set up from Lawson doing enough to occupy and deter some of the offensive linemen. And then again on the outside, Taron just like
beating Ricard to the spot, like and being like, think about it mentally. As like a 190-pound dude running up on a 300-pound dude who's
Ricard is a monster,
literally trying to take your head off.
At times, Ricard will play defensive tackle for the Ravens. He is a unit. But I like what Taron Johnson does. Let's not be dumb. Let's not take him on head on, because we can't. We're probably at the point where if we go low, we're going to get called for a cut block. So look how he attacks the arm. He attacks the shoulder. He attacks like what you said earlier and what you mentioned, an angle. He attacks at a spot where it gives him an opportunity to either get through and make the play or turn this run back inside. He doesn't meet Ricard head up, because that would be dumb. Like, you're not going to win that battle. So he attacks a potential weak point and attacks through the shoulder. Watch him stutter a little bit and then knife right through, get through the arm, and allows Milano to make the play. Also, Hamlin gets driven back here, but good initial presence from him at setting the wide part of the edge there and not just giving an easy bounce out. But again, individual
That's
great
not his
plays.
strength.
No.
So seeing him check that box eventually will be something we're kind of looking for and searching
Yes.
for, but that's not something you're necessarily expecting him to do
No. So he did a fine
skill set.
job. Like, you're
Exactly.
sufficient. That's fine. But this play again, you're highlighted by Shaq with the initial disruption a bit. Taryn cuts it off, playing through Ricard, and then of course, like you mentioned,
Milano
Milano
coming
clicks
from
and
the
closes.
backside of the play.
Just
I mean,
so
not so far backside of the play, but backside.
No, but still backside. Like, it's still, you still have to take the proper angle and then pounce at the right time. And you watch him, he's got eyes on the ball the whole time. And you know what? Again, this is a perfect example. Look at what Milano does on this play, right? Notice his eyes never break focus in contact with J.K. Dobbins. His eyes are on the ball the whole time. You know why? Because he doesn't have to worry about blockers coming up. He doesn't have to worry about shedding a block or playing through a man because the front and his peers have done their job. He was supposed to get outflanked on this play, but it doesn't work because the offensive linemen can't get to their landmarks because of what Shaq did. Taron Johnson turns it back inside. Linderbaum doesn't get to Milano. Boom, shoot the gap, make the tackle. Great play individually from Milano, but again, team defense. We're going to keep saying it. You've got these individual plays that are the highlights, but they are the result. Yes, run fits are team mentality and team defense. It's beautiful. Oh, we got some really nice comments coming in the chat. Appreciate you, Chris, saying sick breakdown. Oh, and then Pops comes in and says, I love the show. I wanted to stop because sometimes it's just nice to hear nice words. Back to the film.
All right. So on this play, obviously, last one, we just saw Shaq making a play, and this is another one. I mean, this is really the staple of what he was brought in to do. I think a lot more was the idea of what we saw from Epinesa on the first couple of plays, just kind of stacking his block and shedding his block. This is a little different, but he's still making an impact in the run game. And that's really what I think a lot of people expected with Shaq Lawson and bringing Shaq Lawson in onto this team. Like we mentioned, like Leslie Frazier made a lot of adjustments on how he decided to defend this run game, how he decided to defend the pass, but he got a lot more creative and or aggressive with how he went at it. And I mean, these slant rushes and how you're going to attack this offensive line is a way to do that. So you see him slanting inside, kind of identifying all these guys trying to climb to the second level, which is Falele, and he just sneaks on by him, make sure that the Polar doesn't even get a piece of him. I don't know how the Polar didn't see him there, and just sneaks by everyone and makes the play. So really great individual effort from him. Really not much more in terms of like a team breakdown on this one. Obviously people did their jobs, but like the Ravens just didn't pick him up as he knifed through all of these people.
I'm laughing, and I was laughing when you started this clip because we've been talking about like run fits being a team defense piece,
and this is
like,
an individual effort.
Just like this one guy who does everything. Real quick, I want to answer Chris's question. Chris says you joined a little late. Terrible, Chris. How dare you? But Chris says, what did you guys think of Amelia overall? Fantastic game from Prince Amelia, especially given the expectation and what was asked of him in this type of game. The responsibility, the defense, the role, he flashed a ton. I thought he played with a high floor and also wrecked some plays, demonstrating literal like the ability to kind of take over on some reps. I know he got released today from the practice squad as the Bills welcome back Justin Zimmer.
Probably be back in terms of like what they're doing with Crowder.
I'm hoping there's some gamesmanship, right, with that roster action and Amelie comes back. I really I like a lot of the depth guys. I love Ilianku. Yeah. I really like Prince Amelie. I like Bryant. I like Zimmer coming back. But yeah, we're big fans of Amelie after this game, Chris. Very good question. I don't have much to add on this one. Like it's the slant inside again, but this actually, I will say, this goes into that theme of what the Bills started doing as this game went on, right? Like these type of slants.
This was late in the game. This was fourth quarter, I believe. I think this was the final drive for the Ravens.
Yeah, I think you're correct on that. We started seeing these post-snap adjustments. Look at Settle at the one tech and look at Shaq at defensive end on the edge on the right. Both of their movements on the snap, they both slant inside. And then Settle slanting inside kind of works in the favor of Baltimore.
Yeah,
because
they're trying to wash him down.
Yes, they're trying to wash him down. Exactly. This run is supposed to go to the left. So Settle getting that far upfield and going to the left is kind of just like, oh, okay, like let's seal this guy and go away. But Shaq shuts this down again, slashes inside, but he recognizes it. His head is up. He's watching. He sees the action. He sees the cut. And then also, I want to give a shout out to Jordan Poyer with his even though his, elbow or shoulder is healthy, he's got a brace on it for a reason, and he just puts the full bore of that left shoulder and that left arm into the chest of Patrick Ricard and kind of doesn't stop Ricard dead in his tracks, but he sets that edge with physicality. So that's a really nice piece from Poyer. Bills, I believe, were in a too high look pre-snap right as it started to happen, and then Poyer started coming down and just crashed, met Ricard right on that edge, kind of stopped him a little bit dead in his tracks, and then you see the play there from Shaq. Again, so you have some team defense aspects here, but every once in a while, you just get one where it was just like, well, this one guy just made a play. This time it was Shaq, which is what he's known for. That run defense piece, that savviness, that awareness, really, really, really great play from Shaq, who also offered some pop in the pass rush in this game as well. I don't genuinely, you and I talked about it earlier today. I don't think there's a defensive lineman that had a bad game for the Bills. Everyone, all the defensive tackles, all the edges, they played very, very,
all
very
had at
well.
least one flash play.
Yes, they did what was asked of them, and they shined when they were called upon. So, again, really nice piece. And again, this group should, in theory, get better once Oliver and Phillips come back. No disrespect to the players that have filled in before, but you're just getting these contributions from these depth guys. Like, it's hard to beat a team that is getting contributions from their second and third and fourth and fifth stringers, like against a grouping that should not happen against.
Still trying to figure out why Linderbaum climbed past Shaq, but I guess Moses is supposed to get there in time as he's pulling from right guard position. I mean, that's just a tough ask for him to get there. Obviously, the slant inside from Lawson makes it even harder for that timing to sync up, but that's a tough ask. He's not even ahead of Dobbins as is, and you want that puller to be leading your running back.
He slants so far inside, that I think Linderbaum just thinks, oh, well, he took himself out of the play, it's over, and then, Moses can clean it up. But that's actually where Settle's penetration, even though he slants and kind of gets washed a little bit,
kind of helps because he took out Moses.
Exactly, because his penetration is so far upfield that it stunts where Moses is trying to go to, and kind of gums up the works, which again, sometimes you don't have to do the right thing and play in the defense's hands. But if you play with that level of burst and that level of penetration, you just cause some havoc, especially this is the disadvantage of a gap run, because the gap run is designed to go to a specific hole. And if something gets messed up early to a severe enough degree,
go there.
You're still going. This isn't, okay, I'll just be like water and flow somewhere else. It's like, no, I'm supposed to go through this door. Yeah, but that door's on fire. Tough cookies. Cover yourself in water.
Run through it faster.
Run through it faster. Like, you got to go through the door.
That's funny. I love your analogies. Can't stop with them.
I pride myself on them.
Moving on to a little bit more of, this play is going to be more pressure based and kind of opening the door into how Frazier was getting a little bit more creative in how he was rushing Lamar and what they were doing back end and front end of their defense. And then moving on to kind of a progression style of how certain drives ended and how the Bills ended certain drives. So first, we're going to show a little intro to that with Bills getting creative with some stunts up front. And you see it from Daquan Jones and Von Miller here. Yeah, Daquan Jones had a great game. Honestly, he's been doing really well as the looper on these stunts, and
he's been doing not well expecting that. Everything. You and I talked about it earlier today. We were excited about the presence he would bring against the run, but what he's brought against the pass rush has just been
an added bonus and a half.
Yeah, and it's real. Like, it's real and it's important.
Yeah, so obviously you see this play is kind of schemed up for Daquan Jones to get around that edge as Von spikes inside. Von beats his man Moses to the inside, and you're going to see it here from the end zone camera. I'll keep replaying it from the end zone so we can focus in on the pass rush here. But that's the idea here. This is, I believe, the third to last drive for the Ravens in the first half. So this is before the Bills really started getting going. But you can see that Leslie Frazier is starting to kind of toy with the idea of being more creative up front, finding ways to disrupt Lamar, disrupt his timing, do anything to create pressure on him and force incompletions, turnover-worthy throws, whatever. And right here, you see that the pressure, the hands in the face, this is a touchdown because this was an absolutely excellent route from Mark Andrews. If I go back to the sideline, like, this was a crazy out and up route. He sold this route so well against Dane, made it look like an out. You can see the head fake that he put on was just immaculate. Like, you can see his head didn't fully turn it, so
He's
it takes him
parallel right there. Like, you think he's running it out.
But exactly, he's parallel to that 10-yard line, doesn't fully turn his head towards the quarterback so he can break up the field a little bit faster. And once he sees Dane jump that out route, he knows he's got the up, and he gets by him, creates separation. But yeah, you go back to the end zone, and that's where generating pressure, even though it's not going to end in a sack every single time, it can end up in either a moot point or a negative play for the offense. So that this is an example of that, and how getting creative on the front end can help the back end.
Yes. Real quick, I wanted to address something that was asked in the chat because I think this is cool. Jared asked why the Mo in Baltimore is a different color in the end zone. That's for Mo Gaba, a big Ravens super fan who died when he was 14. He battled a bunch of different in and out of hospitals with cancer, fighting cancer. He passed away in the summer of 2020. So the end zones have been different colored with Mo in honor of him for just how big of a Ravens fan that he was and everything that he went through before his passing. I think that's a cool thing that they do that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I love what Mark Andrews does on this play. This is cover 2, or at the very best, it's palms, some kind of trap coverage where Dane is reading 2 to 1. But either way, he breaks on Andrews because he reads the out. So Dane just does his job. If there's any outbreaking route, Dane is going to cover that. And you see, like we mentioned, Andrews is parallel, like, to the end zone there. Everything screams body language, head positioning. Yeah. You're thinking, oh, cool.
He did
like
everything to sell that out.
You're thinking, oh, this dude's running it out. And what's crazy too is not only does he sell it, the way he gets upfield, he doesn't collide into Dane Jackson. He gets inside him.
He's athletic.
Yes, it's beautiful. It's smooth. It's clean. He's wide open. So again, this is one where they had the perfect call for the coverage. And you just got to tip your cap. Like, Andrews just made a great play on this route. Good job. But I do think this is cover 2. I think it's actually Tampa 2, especially with how Edmonds is carrying up the middle of the field. But regardless, good route from Andrews, doesn't get completed, and it gets disrupted and doesn't get completed because of the game up front. My first thing is we start out with Vaughn. I love the wide alignment. Again, we're seeing a lot of teams go back to this across the entire NFL, especially ones with premier edge rushers, and the Bills are doing it with Vaughn. Having that wide alignment puts the offensive tackle in a vulnerable state, because especially when you're lining up Daquan Jones at the 3 tech,
how fast he tries to get wide.
Yes. So it puts the offensive tackle, in this case, the right tackle, Moses, it puts him in an isolated state where he's almost on an island against Von Miller. So if they want to give him help, they have to slide the entire offensive line to the right, or Moses has to take him on one-on-one. And even if you slide, then you're opening yourself up for vulnerability in the middle. So it puts the offense in a bit of a bind. Von knows this. He sells the upfield so hard. And I love, boom, right there. Look at that hard jab step inside. He knifes inside, gets inside right away. Now, here's my thought, right? I know you mentioned it was a stunt or twist, whatever verbiage everyone wants to go with. I think Von spikes inside. I don't know if this was
designed.
I don't know, because Daquan Jones still gets upfield straight, and then he bounces outside once he realizes what Von's path is.
Just a heady play from both of them, reading and reacting the O-line.
And either way, it's a win, because
that's, to me,
that
if you're seeing players, I think it would be bigger, because then you're talking about playing above the scheme. You're talking about, okay, we just have a straight rush called. You guys read what you read, do what you do.
Yes.
And like you said, wide alignment. Okay, if this dude gets too wide and overcorrects, spike inside. That's what Von does. And then you see everyone overcompensate for that. And Daquan Jones has, the awareness to see all of this going on.
Yep.
And he just loops around. So you could absolutely be right. This could not be a Leslie Frazier thing. This could just be the personnel playing above the scheme.
And either way, it's a win. It's either great design and 100%. Execution, or it's the players making a play. So really good job from Daquan Jones looping around there and keeping Lamar penned in. Rush angles and rush lanes are so important against dual threat QBs. You can't give them any opportunity to escape or make plays with their legs. I also love when Von spikes inside, he gets pushed far inside and his momentum carries him. But watch how, as he gets pushed, he just breaks down and stops, gathers himself, retraces, and comes back. So then He gets pushed out of position, gets back into position, and he and Daquan Jones kind of meet at Lamar. And then what's also nice too is I love how Daquan Jones gets his hands up. Oh,
Yes,
Spin just said it right here at the end too. He said hands up. Daquan Jones gets his hands up, affects the throwing angle in the throwing lane, which combined with the pressure and the hands being up, wanted to bring in this comment from Craig. Exactly, Craig.
Exactly.
Lamar couldn't step into this throw, so the ball sails. You see him, he's basically throwing all upper body. He can't step into it because he doesn't have anywhere to step up into. It affects his rhythm and it affects his platform and what he can get into this throw. So again, we showed a lot from the front from a run perspective so far. This is where that coverage and front and pressure piece is a marriage, because the Ravens won on this play on the back end. Great route, great timing for the call, took advantage of what the Bills were trying to do. This also might be, a lot of teams love to play cover 2 in the red zone just because of the layering it gives and the condensed field because you're in the red zone. So this might be the Ravens sitting here thinking, you know what? I think they're going to roll with cover 2. Let's run this out and up. It's the perfect call, but it doesn't work because of the execution from Von Miller and Daquan Jones. So you get a great individual play from 2 individuals either playing within the execution or playing above the scheme, and it's a win for the defense.
I need to find that out now. I'm like a little upset that I don't know.
You know what? It could be either or. Actually, Daquan Jones followed me on Twitter today. I might DM him and ask him. But you know what I did? He liked this tweet, and what I said here, that he makes the adjustment and reads it, he liked it, which makes me think that it wasn't a stunt. Just because of how
we're going to go with that then.
Like if you play it, so play it again one more time. He just gets so far upfield. And again, it could be the design, like, okay, you're gonna get upfield this much. And then once Von
cuts, starting at the 16-yard line, his push gets him.
He looks like he's rushing upfield.
He gets 4 yards before he loops.
That's pretty deep for a loop.
Yeah, no, it is.
That's my only thought.
No, you're definitely right then.
We have 15 likes to go to get to 100. More likes, guys. More. It's that Kylo Ren gift from Star Wars where he's just yelling more. That's what we need at this point. They are the lifeblood of live streams. We really appreciate it. Not to sound corny or make you chill out, but yeah, more likes, please, and thank you. Again, only if you're enjoying this content. If you're not enjoying this content, I blame Kendall.
I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, who would be bringing us down here? It's got to be the one controlling the film.
I'm glad that you recognize it because I think it shows how humble you are, but also realistic in your view of the world.
Yeah, pessimism. We've talked about this.
That's what we are. Cover
Realism
1 film
equals
room.
pessimism.
That's exactly what it is. The cover 1 pessimism room.
All right. So second to last segment here, we're talking about the last scoring drive for the Ravens. All right. So we got a 3-play progression here. We're starting with a first down run stop. Then we're showing second down creativity and third down drop into coverage. All right. So we got the first down run stop here, and it really all starts with everything in the middle from Settle and Daquan Jones. And we have been talking about Daquan Jones just like seemingly all
He's
night.
having an amazing year. He's up there with Milano has been crushing it. Edmonds has been crushing it. And now with what Poyer's done, but I think you can make a case that Daquan Jones is top 3 on this Bills defense this year because of what he's doing in the garbage areas and the dirty areas too. The plays that he's making on his own, let alone the plays that he's allowing others to make, been tremendous.
I mean, just look at Settle and Daquan Jones at the point of attack here. Obviously, you see them kind of shifting zone over to the right and Linderbaum climbing to the second level, but you don't see Jones or Settle giving up any ground. That line of scrimmage hasn't moved. It's still in the same exact spot. Daquan Jones is in complete control of his guy. Like, there is no chance he's moving anywhere. Obviously, eyes in the backfield. You see that. And then Settle, same way, eyes in the backfield. If this run is going to continue going right, he's all over it. And it keeps going right. Both of them shed off of it, and they're both in position to make this play. So that's one step. One domino has fallen in the right direction towards keeping the Ravens behind schedule in terms of getting ahead of the sticks and making sure that you're keeping your defense in favorable positions to get off the field and get your offense back on the field.
Real quick, Kendall, we have a question from the chat. I'll let you go with this one first before I break down this play, which I love. DF Forever says, is our defensive line play why our linebackers are looking so good? It seems that we are holding the gaps well. What are your thoughts? How much would you give credit to?
I was going to say, because it's definitely not all.
Correct.
Because I think Edmonds and Milano, I mean, I don't know how much Milano has necessarily improved, but I think Edmonds has definitely shown improvements this season. I'd give probably at least like 60 to 75 range on D-line and what the D-line has done. And that's even including Von Miller and then just the presence of him.
Von Miller plays the run very well. People don't realize it.
Yeah, they don't. So that's the thing. It's not just the interior guys like Jordan Phillips, Daquan Jones, Tim Sutton. It's not just those guys. It's all of the additions and the improvements like Basham, Groot, and Epinesa. It's all of those guys improving on the front four, making lives easier for the linebackers.
I also want to say one quick thing.
60 to 75%, somewhere in that range.
I think that's fair. I also want to say, no, that doesn't mean, well, then we can just put any linebackers in and they'll succeed. Not true. You still need to be able to process. You need the speed. You need the athleticism. This type of defensive line is built to play in front of linebackers like Edmonds and like Milano. That type of havoc, push and penetration type of defensive line, who also, I think it's also a little bit of a scheme tweak this year. We're not seeing as much. Daquan Jones is actually a good example on this one. We're not seeing as much one gap penetration. We're seeing a little more Brandon Staley gap and a half.
Yep. Get your guy and be in control of, like he's in control of the number 70's right shoulder, but he could go left shoulder if he had to.
Yes. You're not. So in a normal one gap, scheme, you are trying to get penetration. You're trying to get upfield. Daquan Jones is supposed to cover the B gap between 70 and 78. So his job is to get upfield, get into that gap, get penetration. A two gapper, you're coming off the ball with less explosion. That's more of like your 3-4. If you're thinking back to the Steelers days, your 3-4 defensive lineman, where you're coming, just making
probably
contact.
Be lined up at a 2 technique right over number 70.
Yep, or lining up head up on the center, and you're occupying those worlds. Gap and a half, you're coming off the ball exactly like this. You're coming off the ball with explosion, and you're coming off the ball aggressive, but you're not going full penetration. You're coming off and you're controlling your gap, but the gap and a half comes from you still have the ability to kind of move and shed and get into the other gap or make a play in a secondary gap that you are responsible for. Brandon Staley's yes, exactly. So he got that penetration, he got some push, but then he stops, he holds, and now he's in position to do almost anything he wants. Very similar to what Brandon Staley did with his last year with the Rams when they were just fitting the run by playing gap and a half and just being absolute banshees and raptors up front. But I love this gap and a half here from Daquan Jones. Gets upfield, gets the push. Look at the full extension.
The arms right there.
Yes, this is emasculating for that
full
guard.
Full control of this
You
guard.
are done. Daquan Jones has leverage on you, which he shouldn't because he's huge. And he's got his hands right up into your neck. He's got control. You're done. There's nowhere for you to go. And then if you're the running back, it's like, okay, where do I go? Okay, I'm going to try and get outside. I'm going to try and go left, but I can't because Epinesa, again, slices inside, shuts down. Like you would think, oh, I can go straight ahead if I'm Justice Hill. Nope. Here comes AJ Epinesa. Hamlin comes screaming off the edge. So that left side is done if you're the running back. This run could go to the left if it's open. Oh, no, it's not cool. Let me follow my blockers and flow and go to the right. Uh-oh, there's Daquan Jones. Let me cut it up inside. Uh-oh, Tim Settle just came free while he's being held, literally grabbed on the inside of his shoulder pad. You'll see it, Tim Settle right there in the center. Boom. You see the pull on that 99, and he still makes this tackle. Groot is coming in. Groot accounts for Lamar Jackson and still traces back and makes a play on Justice Hill. Yes, like it's just responsible play. The defensive line is doing their job, which is nice because Linderbaum climbs to the second level here and he gets on Matt Milano. But guess what? The line up front for the Bills, they win their individual matchups and they beat their guys, and this run is dead in the water again. So what do you have? A really good individual play from Settle who makes the tackle, but look at the convergence. All the white jerseys and the white helmets on that one running back because players are flying to the football. They're beating their blocks. They're coming forward with aggression and purpose and violence and tenacity. Everybody's screaming to the football and winning within the scheme, but also winning individually. And again, we saw this time and time again, which is what you have to have against a team like the Baltimore Ravens. You have to be sound in your scheme and structure, but you also have to win at the individual level. It's not enough to be good in just one or the other. You have to do both. The Bills did it consistently, which is why we've gone through these specific set of plays as we continue to go forward to really highlight that scheme and structure piece, but also the individual play within it as well. Kendall, can I pull up some stuff from the chat real quick?
Yeah, I want to bring one thing up. I do kind of think that the question before about improving linebacker play, I think that another thing is because the front four isn't even allowing things to get to the second level, it makes the linebackers look good in the essence that they don't have an opportunity to look bad.
Oh, good point. Very good point. Very well said. Very well said. I wanted to bring up these comments on some gap and a half stuff. So Michael's all about the trenches, defensive line and offensive line. Michael says, so glad they're playing gap and a half as I hoped they would when we were breaking down the D after last season so that Tremaine Edmonds wouldn't have to two gap from the middle linebacker spot. Also a huge point. You're not seeing as many offensive linemen climb to the second level and put Tremaine Edmonds and sometimes Matt Milano in positions where you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's hard to two gap as a linebacker, especially 2, 3, 4 yards past the line of scrimmage. It's a lose-lose most of the time. And then I wanted to also go through this comment as well, asking, does gap and a half limit pass rush? To a degree, you're not going to get as much pass rush as you are if you're just a pure one-gapping defensive line. Because again, the whole idea of a one-gapping defensive line is
quick first step penetration.
Yes, penetration designed to get into the backfield and make a tackle for a loss, but you're trying to affect the quarterback. And think of the Seattle Seahawks defense, that Legion of Boom cover 3 defense, right? Everybody thinks about the back end and what they did with Wagner and Chancellor and Earl and Sherman and all that. But think of Michael Bennett and that front four. They were a fast, slicing, one-gap penetrating defensive line. Think of all the plays that were made in the backfield. Think of all the quick hurries, the pressures, and the penetration. So that one-gapping, yes, it'll give you more pass rush than a two-gapping style or a gap and a half. But gap and a half is still, it's kind of like, again, literally, it's halfway between 1 and 2. It's kind of like marrying and merging both. So you're still responsible in the run fit, allowing the defense to play more numbers and coverage. But because you're still getting forward with some aggression, you still have the ability to get forward in the pass rush. And I think that's what you're seeing from the Bills this year. So when done correctly, it's a really healthy marriage between run stoppability and pressure as well.
We good?
No? Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so we're moving on to play 2 in this progression, which is second down here. And this is where I kind of alluded earlier in the show about Leslie Frazier kind of getting creative with the front end and the back end. And we didn't necessarily see it marry a lot, but on this play, we will. We see, obviously, Hamlin come closer to the line of scrimmage early on the play, and then you see him rotate back as the Bills drop into cover 2, because Elam has literally no one threatening his flat area, so he's just going to keep carrying. At least that's how I read it. Let me know if I'm wrong, Ant. Either way, we'll let you give your rebuttal, which I'm sure is going to be correct. Either way, we see the marriage of what you see pre-snap for Lamar change post-snap on the back end. But then you pair that with what the Bills are doing on the front end with that stunt action at the top of your screen for the defensive line with these two fellers right here. And that combination of confusion is exactly what you want to see, because it gives you that extra half second, like we were talking about earlier in the show. Gives you that extra half second to affect the passer, affect what he wants to do. And obviously, this ends in a sack. This isn't just affecting the passer in terms of getting the ball out and forcing an incompletion. You get the sack, you get the finish, and you see Groot come down here with the sack on the stunt here.
Yeah, this one, Groot finishes it off, which is like the highlight on the box score. But and I it's so hard to figure out who to highlight first. I'm going to start with Daquan Jones. Lined up in basically like a 4 tech.
4 eye, maybe, just because of where he's pointing.
Which is going to put, Moses again into a bind again, because now Groot is in a wide alignment. So you're kind of put into that isolated island situation. Just look how much penetration Jones, look how far he gets upfield. Look at the hands, the push, the pop. Look how heavy.
Works into Moses as well.
The pinballs, takes up 2 guys. Gregory Rousseau comes in scot-free. that hand pop, that punch, that initial contact and feel from Daquan Jones completely disrupts the blocker. Like he gets his hand right on him. And as soon as that happens, it's curtains. Watch this. Again, we'll go slow. Boom. He gets the hand into the chest and watch the extension. It's over. 70 is leaning. He's got nothing. And then let's go rewind it quickly if you don't mind. Let's look at AJ Epinesa on the left side. Highlighted, beautiful. Watch him just get underneath Faalele, lean, long arm, boom, just drive him.
That's a big guy. That's like 360 plus pounds.
Yes, that is real strength in your body, in leverage, your core, in your arms, leverage, everything. Speed to power. That's what you're getting from AJ Epinesa. And what has Brandon Beane talked about since getting Basham and Rousseau? What did he talk about in that draft? He wanted to be able to compress the pocket. That's what you get on this play, compression of the pocket. Jones gets upfield and takes away any potential escape out to the right. Epinesa has completely compressed the width of the pocket from the left side, and then you get Gregory Rousseau coming right down Main Street and affecting the depth. And all three players hit Lamar.
Meet at Lamar.
All three meet at the quarterback. Like, I guess each of them gets 0.33 of a sack. Like, that's just wild that they all get there. And then you've got Tim Settle occupying in the middle and kind of like
spying in a way
a little bit and kind of just trying to do what he can. And you let your other three just get upfield. This is, again, that huge point. Now you've got the front affecting things in the run game like we've been showing all game. But now you get the traditional example of what we've seen all year, which is the Bills are able to get pressure with their front four, which means they can drop 7 into coverage and have the numbers advantage from a math perspective in coverage. Huge, huge, huge piece for this Bills defense is a large reason why they continue to win. This angle just really shows how far Jones gets upfield and how much penetration gets. Like, they just completely push the pocket and compress it all around Lamar Jackson, and he's got nowhere to go. Like, even if this is the most dynamic guy on earth with the ball in his hands, and he's got nowhere to go because of their rush angles, their lane, speed to power, athleticism, agility, all beautiful.
And then we get on to third down here, which is a really quick one. There's really not much to break down, but the whole point here is that we just won on first down with the run stop. We win on second down by getting creative on the front end and the back end, resulting in a sack. And it gets you at the 37-yard line, I believe. And it's like 3rd and 18. It allows you to drop back into coverage and just make sure that nothing gets behind you. Keep everything in front of you. Limit yards and bend, but don't break. And that's what the Bills do here. They get themselves off the field, and this leads to an eventual Justin Tucker field goal. Last points for the Ravens of the game. And I believe this drive was the staple for Leslie Frazier and what he was trying to do and adjust at halftime with how he wanted to defend the Ravens in the second half. And I think it worked beautifully.
I agree. I don't really have much to add. I think you're spot on.
All right, then we can get on to our last segment of the day. And this is the light up segment, and it's going to be a progression of the final 3 plays on defense, starting with the 2nd and goal from the 1-yard line and moving towards the Jordan Poyer interception. So obviously our light up
sponsored by Nickel City Cigars.
So we're going to start here on the 2nd and 1. We'll essentially call this a first down run stop since it was 4 down territory. And
from the 1-yard line.
From the 1-yard line. And you see these guys act tough. They know that they don't have a yard to give. And we talk about that arm over from Brandon Bryant, and we're going to see it.
It all comes full circle.
Full circle. We've come full circle a few times in this film room, and we see it again. Brandon Bryant just arm over on Moses here, gets to the lead blockers and just eats them up because he beat Moses so early on the play. He takes Ricard out of this play and allows Matt Milano to get upfield and fill the run, fire his gun, penetrate, get in the backfield, get that TFL. And this is a prime example of showing how that front four can affect your linebackers in that second level. Because if it wasn't for Brandon Bryant, you think about it this way, if he's just blocked up right here, you allow Ricard to get right in between Groot and Brandon Bryant, and that's exactly where Milano's trying to fill. He's trying to fill, okay, is it either this way or is it this way based on how Russo's going to attack this tight end here? So Great job by Brandon Bryant at the point of attack. Win right off the bat and allow your linebacker to eat.
He wins so quickly that he takes out, as Pops commented earlier, he takes out 3 blockers. So he gets over his man.
In the puller.
Yes, I was going to say, so he takes on Ricard and the puller, but then Moses tries to backtrack and get a piece of him. So as you go forward here, boom, there's the quick arm over. Let's make contact with Ricard. And there's Ricard coming, there's the puller coming, and the go forward in slow-mo and pause it. There's 3 blockers on 1 man. The numbers advantage you had is now efficiently done. So now Matt Milano has the opportunity to come in scot-free towards the running back and again shoots around the outside. I love how he ducks.
He was very tight to that corner too on Ricard.
Not given any opportunity for Dobbins to find a hole or find a lane. He stays tight to Bryant and runs through J.K. Dobbins. And as he runs through Dobbins, watch Bryant just finish and kind of spear Patrick Ricard to the ground. Ricard takes exception and kind of like pushes him off. It's a great play from Bryant. It's a great play from Milano. Also want to highlight Tremaine Edmonds on this one.
Oh, yeah.
Coming downhill. Let's highlight a little, Tremaine Edmonds, who once again was tremendous. Yeah, the big guy with dreads. He was tremendous once again in this game. Again, this has helped because, again, Bryant is taking on 3 blockers. Look at him. Come forward. Meet his man. You're sound. There is nowhere for Dobbins to go. Dobbins' only hope is that Milano comes up either too flat or too soft, and Dobbins can bounce this outside because there's nothing inside. He's got nothing. But even if he bounces it outside, Gregory Rousseau has position on his man with that long arm, and he's got eyes in the backfield. Again, it starts with an individual play from Bryant that gums up the whole works. But as you highlighted, everybody, look what where their eyes are. Look what their positioning is. There's nowhere to go.
There's nowhere to go. This is a perfect
team
run,
defense.
Yeah, like you said, it starts with Bryant, but everyone is in the right spot after that too.
Yes, and again, just to shout out people because we like that. Daquan Jones and Tim Settle just causing absolute mayhem and havoc, along with Shaq Lawson and Emili there on that right side. Like, there they are. Like, this whole right side of the defensive line, left side of the offensive line, it's just chaos and bodies. It's just a pile, and Shaq gets away clean and is able to move through. And again, good team defense. It starts with a mentality to want to play the run and want to fit the run. And then obviously the ability to execute, see the same thing, the timing, the communication, the collaboration, anything and everything. Just a really good physical, mash you, violent, tone-setting play to start this goal line stand, to let them know, like, hey, it's early in the stand and we know it's 2020. Like, we're playing for keeps down here.
Yep. You're not getting in here easy.
No.
And of course, that play backs them up to the 4.5 yard line and forces them into a pass look, which, in theory works to the Bills' advantage. But you see them here running with a little 2-man in the red zone, and you kind of see the safeties, obviously, in the red zone. They're not going to drop deep. There's nowhere deep to drop. And they're kind of both in robber roles, which works really nicely to the advantage of the Bills, as Hamlin is just in the right spot at the right time. I love what he did on this play. I'm glad that there was a play that I could involve him in, because I thought he played a solid game, not a great game, but I thought he filled in admirably and played pretty well in a lot of spots. But on this play specifically, you see Edmonds get beat to the inside by Isaiah Likely. Right? Like, really
gorgeous
good
route.
move. Sets him up as if he's trying to go to, like, really the field goal posts.
Yep.
And just breaks it off inside. And Lamar tries to climb the pocket because, like we talked about, compress that pocket, make it hard for Lamar. He's got to maneuver in there. He climbs up, and you see he's looking at Likely, but DeMar is peeking in on that. The second he sees Lamar climb, he's like, oh, I got to be aware of this guy as a runner. So he's moving inside the field and towards the line of scrimmage, taking away that window ever so slightly on Likely. He probably still could have fit it in there.
He could have dropped it over.
He definitely.
But again, you have to make this decision in split second real time.
Meanwhile, look at everything going on around Lamar at the moment. Like exposing the football in that moment. You don't know if that's a smart idea, because there could be arms just flailing around your offensive lineman, and if one tips the football, ball security, the ball's on the ground, and next thing you know, the Bills have it. Obviously, hindsight, you don't know they're going to get it the next play.
Yeah, of course.
But Hamlin obviously eyes in the backfield, sees everything going on, and then just knows to make the play on Lamar, keeps working forward, breaks down. I think the announcers broke this down in a really smart way where they mentioned how a lot of times in this game, the Bills kind of spied on Lamar and let Lamar come to them. Conversely, Hamlin did the opposite. He met Lamar. He knew he didn't have time to let Lamar come to him because at that time he was just going to make a move at the 1-2 yard line and probably get into the end zone. So really good play from just about everyone on this play to lock people up, really outside of Edmonds on that great move by Likely. And then the defensive line creating havoc up front, allowing Hamlin to read Lamar as he's climbing the pocket and take away a little bit of that lane and the rushing lane.
And again, another important play in this stand. The first play that we showed was, the 2nd and goal play at the 1, and now it's 3rd and goal from the 4. So, okay, we just got backed up on the run. Let's try and pass it. We got this dual threat quarterback. Let's see what we can do. And the Bills shut it down. I think, Hamlin ends up getting the tackle on this play. I think you also have to credit Jordan Poyer. He and Hamlin come up and they funnel this. I think Lamar sees both of them and it's just like, all right, cool, I'm just going to go down. Because there's no, if it's both ways, right? If Hamlin's screaming down, but if Poyer isn't there, Lamar can potentially keep going to Poyer's side, or Hamlin has to scream down so far. Exactly. Poyer's right there. Lamar can just make a beeline to his right where Poyer is. Or if Poyer's not there, Hamlin's angle might have to change. And then if you're Lamar, you put your foot in the ground right there and you just cut back instead of cutting forward. He's hemmed in here because both safeties come flying down. Again, good team defense. You get enough coverage that holds. You get the pressure that disrupts Lamar at the time where you have somebody open for Lamar Jackson. He's unable to see him because he has to drop his eyes and tries to make a play with his legs because the pocket's compressing around him. I still think he had enough to stay in the pocket, or even when he's scrambling up, to kind of drop this right over the top.
Flick it over Hamlin.
Just flick it. You got
plenty of there. But you can see Hamlin just kind of like in that area, enough pressure, all of those factors working together to be like, I don't know what to do. Or just, Lamar kind of falling back on his laurels of, okay, my legs
I was going to say
really
that
good.
too. Yeah. Like, I'm Lamar Jackson. Nobody can beat me one-on-one. But then he comes forward and he's like, uh-oh, it's a 2-on-1. Cool.
Exactly.
Let me just get down to the 3-yard line. We'll live to play another day.
Yep. And that next day is, of course, the final play of the light up segment. Jordan Poyer in the back of the end zone with the game sealing INT in a sense, because the Bills still had to drive the field, but it was a massive play. I personally read this as like a red zone cover 2 type play that kind of covers in a similar way to cover 4, where the safeties aren't necessarily responsible for the back corners of the end zone. That's more on the cornerbacks to carry if someone goes there. And you see the Ravens run a smash concept with one of the wide receivers sitting down and the other one running the corner. And that's Andrews and Duvernay on that combo there. And Dane sits down with Andrews, which opens up Duvernay in the corner. But luckily, the coverage and the pressure is just at the same time, at the right time. And Lamar can't see Duvernay wide open over here in the back corner.
I'm going to drop real quick the light up sponsor just quickly. Again, sponsored by Nickel City Cigars, so we can see Duvernay. I watched this play back about 15 times, from both angles, trying to figure out the timing to figure out how Lamar did not see Duvernay, because he's like, it looks like he's looking right at the ball. Should be out right there. The ball should be coming out. And then as Duvernay starts to clear, he does drop his eyes as he sees the pressure and gets flushed, and then it's over. I watched it like I'm watching the Zapruder film, like trying to figure out how did he not see Duvernay. Again, shout out to Poyer for doing this speed turn. And beating the ball. Back to that. Shout out to Shaq for making the play, and Rousseau on the edge as well. But I was just like, how did he not see him? Like I still kind of don't get it. I mean, I do, but I get
it from like right here. You don't know if obviously you don't know if Poyer's just going to pick him up and stay with him and ride him to the corner, or if there's going to be a switch with Jackson and Poyer to pick up the sit on Andrews, and then Jackson carries Duvernay to the corner. You don't know what's happening there, but the old adage, even you're leaving, and Duvernay's even with both Poyer and Jackson here. Like you said, if Lamar was decisive on this throw right here, he's got him. He's got him in the back corner of the end zone. So yeah, it is very interesting to see like the timing of all of this linked up in a way where how did this ball not end up in Duvernay's hands? But I do think the Bills had sound enough coverage. Obviously, it's tighter on this side of the field as they're on the right hash. And then they have the bunch and everything going on there, a lot of traffic going on, and then match that with all the pressure that's coming on by Groot and
that's
Lawson
it. Again,
on the
it's
edges.
pressure married with coverage. Like they both have to be good. It's a symbiotic relationship. And this is where another one where you feel kind of hard done out if you're Baltimore, because it's like another play where all we needed was another quarter of a second and we could have had this one. But it just seemed like all through this second half, whenever they would get something in coverage, when they would get a win, they weren't able to sustain blocks up front and pressure would get there. And that's one of the strengths of this Buffalo Bills defense. They can win with coverage. They can win with the front four, or they can win with both. And both of those groups are good enough at times to carry the other one and a race for the other one. The Ravens ran into that today. And I think, boom, that's where it is. His eyes dart inside. As he starts to drift, he looks inside. And then by this time, boom, his head looks inside. This is when Duvernay is clearing. But also by this time, this is the one I mentioned earlier from Shaq Lawson, just comes screaming on that edge.
Ripping through Filet.
Yes, this isn't a sexy move from Shaq. No, this is just determination and like grittiness. He's like, cool, I'm just going to attack your shoulder. You get a little bend from Shaq there.
Yeah, right arm flailing for some balance.
He just rips right through, reestablishes his balance, and beelines it to Lamar. And then you got Rousseau on the outside.
I love what he's doing here. Same. This is like elite, like setting the edge type of stuff, but it's in the pass game.
Yes, like you're again, because what don't you want to do? You don't want to bite too hard, and you take a wrong angle, and Lamar gets around you, and he gets up the sideline, and then he gets the opportunity to make a throw or beat you with the legs. He puts the second and third level defenders into conflict. There's a multitude of problems that can result, again, if you don't maintain your rush integrity and maintain your rush lanes. Rousseau does, combined with his length, he gets his hands up, so that affects this throw from Lamar even more. Lamar has to put more arc on this throw because he has to get it up and over Rousseau, and that little bit of extra time partially helps Jordan. Too. Yes, and it helps Jordan Poyer get to this ball and just, make a beeline and beautiful. This was also huge, too, because if the Bills just got the stop.
I was thinking this. They're on the 2-yard line if this is not an interception.
This is what kills you even more if you're the Ravens. Not only do you get no points, you turn the ball over in the end zone, which means the Bills get to start this drive on the 20 instead of just getting a regular fourth down stop and starting at the 2. So instead of having to go 98 yards for a touchdown, they only have to go 80. Big difference.
And poor Lamar here is probably thinking, like, I can't get sacked over here because it's essentially a touchback, and then he gives them a touchback.
It just really disappointing. If you're Lamar, he was very pissed at himself after this. You knew that he was going to be bothered by that, and rightfully so. And I do not want to be him in the film room on Monday when he sees Duvernay clear and he's just like, son of a, you just want to throw your binder at the TV and the film. That's really good performance from this Buffalo Bills defense. In a game, again, where they needed to be. They needed to be sound with their game plan, with their play calling, with their execution, and their team defense, individually and holistically. You are playing a former MVP. I've said it multiple times on the show, I think the most dangerous man in the NFL, maybe even the world, with a football in his hands. He's grown as a passer, and obviously he still is what he is as a runner. The Bills had to bring their game this week, no matter what, but especially with how this game started early, it was easy to kind of get boat raced the way that game started out for the Bills offense. The Bills defense came, they brought their A game, they executed, they adjusted, they executed some more, they played mind games and paired that with physical execution. Just a really, really well done game from the Buffalo Bills in a multitude of ways.
Yeah, and they had to have it, especially on the defensive side, giving up as many points as they gave up in the first half without the offense, matching them in that way. As a defense, you got to do what you can to keep your offense in that game. And they did at just about every stop. They proved to be very tough, really difficult to move the ball on because of that symbiotic relationship between the front and the back end, because it really came together, especially, really that second to last drive from the Ravens in the second quarter on till the rest of the game. You saw it. Obviously, the Ravens still moved the ball on that final drive, but there were a lot of little moments throughout there where you could see the Bills were dominating. The Ravens just were able to squeak out those first downs.
Very interested to see what this defense looks like when you plug Ed Oliver back in, when you plug Jordan Phillips back in, and all-pro corner Tre'Davious White. Very interested to see what he looks like. There are reinforcements.
A lot of missing pieces right now.
Yes, missing pieces and reinforcements lurking in the shadows for the Buffalo Bills defense, and they're cooking with
scary for the NFL.
Yeah, it really could be with what they're doing and how they're firing on all cylinders. And you have the top level players playing like top level players. You've got rotational guys coming in and playing strong and not looking like rotational guys. It's just, I mean, something's up when Prince Amelia got released today. Again, we think he's going to come back. We think there's some gamesmanship there on the roster. You got something when you have a practice squad guy who everyone in the fan base was like, why did he get released? Everyone was upset. And who would have thought that? Going into that game, you're like, no Ed Oliver, no Jordan Phillips.
Right.
Amelia's been crushing it. And I'm pretty confident no one knew who he was as far back as training camp or even the preseason game. He was just, he's a camp body. I don't think people thought a lot of him. And he's showing out. Brandon Bryan's showing out again. You've got the lower tier guys stepping up and playing above their level. The top guys are playing like top guys and then some, making game-changing plays. This defense is starting to do a lot, and they're going to keep having tests as we move forward. We'll see what happens this week against Pittsburgh and Kenny Pickett and what that offense looks like. And then after that, it's a date with Mr. Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, I believe.
Yeah, I imagine that's why a lot of these injury holdouts are happening.
I agree. Got to get Ed Oliver healthy
as possible. Exactly. Get Phillips back, get Oliver back. See if you can get. Wait, can Trey be back for that game?
Trey can be back now if he wanted to be.
Oh yeah.
4 weeks for the pup.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens as we go forward. But regardless of what happens, you folks know that we will have you covered here in the Cover One Film Room, breaking down the most important and biggest takeaways from every Bills game the week prior. I want to thank everyone who rode with us live on this episode. We're sitting here an hour and 36 minutes in roughly. It's 10:39 on the East Coast, and we still got 236 live viewers rolling with us. So we appreciate everyone who rode with us live, the questions, the thoughts, the comments, the engagement with us, the questions for us, the questions for one another, the engagement from one another. And if you were here and you didn't engage, that's completely fine. Just your presence, knowing that we've got these live viewers rolling with us. It's a tremendously humbling feeling to know that you got this many people tuning in and appreciating the work that we put in and the knowledge that we have, or at least try to have and try to display. So thank you very much to everyone who joined us live. If you didn't watch live, that's cool. Thank you very much for your post-live view, your post-live listen or download on any one of the podcasting apps or platforms. If you're on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, please rate and review the Cover One Film Room. Please subscribe to the Cover One Film Room as well. If you're here on YouTube, please drop a like on this video like we mentioned. Please also subscribe to the Cover One Film Room here on YouTube. Many thanks for however anyone and everyone's support comes through to us again. Thank you very much. Thank you very much again to another episode with our sponsor, Nickel City Cigars. Again, we could not be more excited to have this really cool and unique partnership with Nickel City Cigars and how they approach the cigar business. And their logo is awesome. I think it's unique. Yeah. I'm a fan of their whole business model and plan and what they do. And it gives us an awesome opportunity to have a cool segment called Light Up, where we get to highlight cool things and make that connection. So big thanks to Nickel City Cigars. Again, their website can be found in the episode show notes here. Use that Cover One promo code. Again, cover and the number one, all one word, cover and the number one. Go check them out and all their awesome stuff. Spin says smoking's bad for you. That's fine. But cigars, you're not really inhaling it as much. Also, they got bourbons and they got craft beers. There's a lot of options. They're just an awesome place to hang out and be. Go check out Nickel City Cigars. And also, Kendall, it would be cool if a brand like Cover One also had this really cool subscription service as well.
It would be cool. Is that a thing though?
I don't know. Psych, I do know it is. One Pass, Cover One Pass. And you might say what is that? Or why should I subscribe? More exclusive members only content, in-depth analysis, scheme, play, player breakdowns, scouting reports, analytics analysis, access on unlimited devices, access to the Cover One community. We have this huge Slack channel that just continues to grow with One Pass members and the Cover One members as well. So you get access to us in there. tons of channels on the Bills, film, fantasy football, a variety of things. And again, a lot of special behind the scenes content, interviews that we'll have with players and breakdowns that are only available for One Pass members, in addition to some further level analysis and things. I love that Jason's coming through saying that I am wearing that t-shirt right now. That is awesome. Absolutely fantastic. Awesome to hear from you, Jason. Yeah, we are very proud and excited to have, this level. And it's $57 a year. Why? Because Super Bowl 57 is this year, and it's all in the vein of the Bills reaching that Super Bowl, potentially bringing a championship to Buffalo. We try to bring you championship level content here on the Film Room. And again, thank you very much to any and everyone who joined us in any form or fashion, live or post-live, anything and everything. Kendall, thank you to you. You crushed it as always. We had a couple of different opportunities in terms of the direction we could go for this Film Room. In addition to having some people who could join us, some things went sideways for that, so we had to pivot multiple times. Kendall put together all the clips. We talked. We went back and forth. He did a lot of the legwork. So many thanks to you, as always, Kendall, and for the recognition for you that you so rightfully deserve, even though you're not that good.
Oh, but, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But see, you recognize it, so it's cool. So because you're down
real
here,
recognize real.
Real recognize real. And even though you're down here, but you recognize it, so it puts you up here. And that's what it's all about. Thank you very much to everyone. We hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well, staying safe, take care of one another, be kind to one another. Bills are home this week, so if you're going to the game, tailgate responsibly. Try not to go put like a mattress underneath the table if you're going to jump through it. Enjoy the game and the atmosphere responsibly. Take care of one another. Be kind to one another. We hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. You're damn right, Jason. Jason says, thanks to Anthony's tree switching over to Halloween. MVP as always. You're damn right. We got some purple and orange garland. We got little jack-o'-lantern lights rocking on the tree. There's also some orange and black ornaments and some silver action. The tree, damn, see, I pointed the wrong way. You see me do that? I'm horrible at this. The tree plays for keeps. I should really say my wife plays for keeps because she decorates the tree. I have some thought and input. I'm involved creatively.
Execution is
yes, I'm an idea guy. But she helps as well. But it's like 90% her. So major shout out and recognition to my wife for that. Thank you for your recognition of that, Jason. This outro and closing thoughts has gone on long enough. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. We will see you next week. And as always, what do we say, Kendall?
Go Bills.